This is the Panda Touch by Bigtreetech. And this is the K-Touch by Bigtreetech. That's right, it's one and the same device, and I'm going to show you all about that. Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Patrick with Stacking Layers. Today's video, I'm going to be going over how to convert a Panda Touch to the new K-Touch. If you're not familiar with what these things are, basically Bigtreetech has made a cool little screen system that allows you to seamlessly interface with multiple machines. And there's two different versions. So the Panda Touch is designed for, like it shows here in the picture, for Bambu lab machines. And then the newer K-Touch is designed to interface with clean standard Klipper machines. So there are two different versions, and because of the printer ecosystem is different, there are two different firmwares. But what's nice about this is that it is the identical hardware between the two. So jumping back and forth between two different firmwares is very easy to do. Also, what makes this device pretty awesome, in my opinion, is that it has the ESP32S3 chip built in. That's what's controlling the whole system. And what that means is that technically you're not locked to only using Bigtreetech firmware. You know, obviously, if you want to do this specific interface, that is their firmware, so you got to put it on. But with the ESP32 system, it's an open source system, so you can technically, with the knowledge, of course, program this to do all sorts of stuff. It works seamlessly with the LVGL, which is a graphical library that allows you to make this type of interface. So you could technically turn this into something like a weather station or a home automation control panel, or maybe if you have like, a small solar cell type of system, you can go ahead and monitor and control that from this. It's up to you, and of course, what you know how to program. We're not going over that part of it, of course, in this video. It's beyond the scope of this video completely. We're going to stick to Bigtreetech firmware and show you how to get that stuff taken care of and set it up. But I just wanted to point that out because I think this thing is really nice. If you were to get one and then later on find out that, it's just not needed, you don't want it for your printer anymore, it's not a brick. And, you can technically repurpose that, of course, limited to what you know. And, if you don't know anything about ESP32 stuff, then you would have to research that. But I did want to point that out, that this device is not just locked straight to that. So it's a really cool option and a nice package, even if you don't have a printer, but you're thinking, you want to do an ESP32 project with a screen, it's a great package already as it is for that type of stuff. Nice little touch screen, as you'll see here in a minute. And then it has power input, also data communication all through here. It's got a docking station, as you can see there. So the docking station has the plus and minus from power from the USB, and it also breaks out the data pins. So they go into here. So you got your plus and minus, and then your data pins on the internal side. So it's really cool. So you can do things like serial communication and stuff like that too. But like I said, beyond the scope of this video, we're not doing any of the extra out of Bigtreetech stuff. We're sticking to Bigtreetech, but I just wanted to point that out. So what else do we have here as the hardware? So this is the actual screen. On the back, obviously, you see you have a power switch, and you have this I2C. This is for a communication of sensors, like it shows in the picture here. You got temperature and humidity sensors. I believe that's built into the Bambu Lab version of the firmware, the Panda Touch firmware. But I don't think it's available just yet in the K-Touch firmware. The K-Touch firmware is brand new. It's still on version 1, and they are working on a lot of upgrades and additions and stuff. So, if you do get one of these or you get the K-Touch, they have the GitHub, which I'll show you in a minute here. And on there's an area where you can actually put in suggestions, because they want loads of suggestions from people so they can add more and more of what they can when it comes to firmware, because they really want to get the K-Touch version full featured as best as possible. So there's all sorts of stuff in the works. But anyways, as it stands right now, it is the version 1 for the K-Touch that we're going to be flashing over. But I just wanted to point out all the little features of that. So on the power, one other thing is that, as you notice, it has a battery image. So this does have a built-in battery, which is really cool. It is a small battery, so it's only going to last you maybe about half an hour, 30 minutes or so for disconnected use. But you don't need to worry about it. If you run out of battery, or when you're switching from DC volt to battery, it goes off for a minute and restarts. But it's only an interface. This is actually not the heart of your machine. This is not like a host computer. It doesn't replace the Pi. This just allows you a nice, fun interface, a really clean interface to control your machine. And it's also designed to control up to 50 printers through one device. So you can switch through all of your printers. If you have a big print farm, for instance, it's a very handy device because like they showed, you can mount it on one of the machines or even have it mounted off to a side somewhere on a desk or something like that. And then you take it off and you can go from machine to machine and just control and monitor what's going on from each machine. So it's a really nice system. Of course, there's things like Klipper screen, things like that, but not everybody has the bigger screens on their printers. I have basically only one that I'm using a Klipper screen on. The other ones just use the standard rotary style, the traditional simple screens, because most of the time you're doing stuff through the UI on a web browser or something like that, right? But this one is really nice because now you have the ability to be right there in front of your machine and monitor and control things, stop, start, doing home, if you want to do some adjustments like Z height and whatnot. So it's a pretty cool setup. One other thing it does have, which I didn't point out here, let me get this back on. You also have a USB drive. So you have the ability to load up files like G-code and stuff like that. Or another, again, if you're using this outside of the 3D printer life, then you can repurpose that for other things, of course. So that's the hardware. So now we're going to get you flashed over. So if you were here, you have a Panda Touch, and then you got some Klipper machines and you actually rather use it on your Klipper machine, this is going to be the video for you to how to seamlessly convert this over. And then we'll go ahead and set up the K-Touch to work with one of my printers. And I'll show you how that works. But before we get into that, of course, I want to give a huge thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. PCBWay is a great place to get your PCBs made if you have designed your own custom stuff, or even if you've found some open source projects and you want to get PCBs made from them. Upload the files, get them made. As you can see, the quality of these things is really nice, really fine detail available. Look how tiny those circles are. So it's a pretty cool setup, and they're not limited to PCBs. You can do things with 3D printing. So if you want to 3D print, but you have materials that you can't do in your system, like for instance, you want to get some nylon or PEEK, some really high-end engineering materials, or if you want to go through and do SLS printing, you want to get some metal pieces 3D printed, or you want to go even further and do CNC, sheet metal bending. They have all of that. Send your files over, get the quote. It's really fast, really easy, and they're great people to deal with. So check them out. Here's a quick video about that, and we'll be right back. If you're someone who loves tinkering, designing, and creating, you'll definitely want to check out PCBWay. PCBWay isn't just about PCB manufacturing. They've got a wide range of services to cater to creators just like you. From crafting intricate prototypes using many forms of 3D printing to precision machine parts through CNC machining and so much more, PCBWay has got you covered. A really nice part is their online quoting system. It lets you see the cost estimates for the services you need, allowing you to plan your projects without any surprises. As for quality, PCBWay takes it seriously across all their services and do their best to ensure all your designs will meet the highest standards. Beyond services, PCBWay offers a supportive community. Their forums and dedicated support team are there to help you to navigate through your creative journey. If you're intrigued and want to know more about PCBWay services and how it can benefit your projects, check out the link in the description. I want to give a big thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so we're back. So how do we get this Panda Touch to become a K-Touch? Well, I'm going to show you right away. It is extremely easy and probably going to be one of my shortest videos. Surprising. So let's check this out. So what you need to do is first come over here to the Bigtreetech GitHub page. And specifically, you want to go to their K-Touch repository. So it's github.com/Bigtreetech/K-Touch. And we're going to have to download basically the whole repository because we need both the files in this folder here. So we need these 4 files, and we need the Flash tool. So the easiest way to do this would be just come over here to the green code and click download zip. If you know how to use GitHub, you can also probably already aware that you can just clone the GitHub repository. You can do that if you're set for that, but that's not really important. If you know how to do it, then go ahead. Otherwise, just download zip and then unzip that to a folder somewhere where you know it's going to be. Once you have that downloaded and unzipped, then what we're going to need to do next is unzip this here. This is the Flash download tool folder. So go ahead and get that unzipped. Extract it here. There we go. And then what you need to do is, of course, open that up. And then we're going to start this program here. Okay. It's going to open up this command prompt window and launch the user interface for the program. Pretty straightforward. But before we do anything with this part, what we need to do is plug in our Panda Touch or K-Touch, whichever direction you're going. You do need to plug it into your computer. We're not plugging this to your printer. There's nothing that's going to be plugged in hardware to your printers. This is really cool. So go ahead and plug that into your computer and it should boot up. Also, before we do that, make sure that you're in the DC, obviously, because you don't want it off and you don't want it on battery. So plug it into the DC side so it's going to be powered through USB and be able to communicate. So there we go. And then once that's powered on, it's going to power on pretty quickly. Then we can come back over to here. And first thing we need to do here is to select the chip type. It is not 8266. It is the ESP32S3 chip. Make sure to select the correct one so the firmware gets flashed over properly. Everything else stays the same. Hit OK. And then this is the interface for flashing over stuff. So a couple things we need to change here, but not too much. So the first thing we need to do, and I think this actually has caused a lot of problems and what prompted me to make this video in the first place is we have these 4 files that are already pre-populated for you, but it doesn't always see these files. They're in the right spot and they're correct. The problem is that if you notice there's in the front here, it just has the 2 dots. So technically the entire file path is not properly put in here. Even though when you click through them, they turn green, that means that everything's good. If I can do this here. Typically that means that it recognizes and everything's good. And sometimes this will work, but a lot of times if you don't have the full file path, it depends on where this program was opened, that it may not actually see this or be able to see where that is. So you'll get an error or it just acts like it fails. So what we need to do to make sure that it does work properly is actually give it the full path. And to do that, we click on these little squares next to it, next to each line, and that will open up our choose a file location. As you notice, it did open it pretty much to where they are because it kind of knows where it is. So just bear with me. Just go ahead and do it this way. That way it'll mitigate any chance of this causing a problem. And what you need to do here is important. Obviously, you need to choose the right files. So the first one here is bootloader. You want to make sure to keep it in the same spot where it is. So the bootloader here, the bootloader.bin is the first line. And the reason why that's important is because these files need to go into certain areas of the flash memory on the chip, on the ESP32. And that's what these numbers are dictating over here. So do not change these numbers. If you change these numbers, then you're actually changing the physical location of where this information is being stored, and that can mess things up. Also, that's why it's important to put the bootloader where it is, partition where it is, and so on, because it's telling it needs to be at that location on the chip when it's being read. Okay, so just follow the way it is already set up and you'll be good. So the first one is bootloader.bin. So we double click on there. And now you can see the full path name is on here. So that's good. Then we do the same thing with the next 3. So we have partition. There's partition. Next one is firmware.bin and firmware. And then the last one is the profat image. But if you notice, that's not in this one. It may be in yours already, but on mine, it comes up like this. And the reason why it's missing is because down here, it's set to show only binary files, a .bin one. So you do need to open this up and select image or select all. If you select image, it shows just the image. It's a .img. Obviously, self-explanatory, select all, it'll show everything that's in that folder. So go ahead and select the image. And now we have all 4 of them set up with the proper entire file path address. So we're good to go there. Then the next step we need to do is come down to this COM line. It's set up as COM6 as a default there, but that's not what I'm plugged into. When you open it, you'll see it changes to COM5. So go ahead and select that. Your COM may vary. It depends on where you've plugged it in on your machine and how your system's set up. But if you do have multiple COM ports available, what you're going to need to do is unplug the Panda Touch or the K-Touch and see which one disappears. And when you plug it back in, when that comes back, that's the one you want to select. If you have nothing there, there's a couple things that can be causing that. One, it could be that your USB cable is not a data enabled cable. There's a lot of these long cables you can buy that are really only designed for power, for charging. And so the data lines aren't physically connected inside, or they're not connected correctly. So you don't get the proper data connection. Other things that can happen if you have a poor cable or if the cable's being worn out, it's got a loose connection somewhere, it can cause data issues, and that'll make so the COM doesn't show up, or maybe the COM does show up, but then you'll get like errors, you'll get communication errors or something. This will turn red, or you'll have it to where it's just syncing, but nothing ever really happens. And that could be caused by a bad cable also. So keep those things in mind. If also nothing shows up, there's another option that, or another chance that the driver is not installed. This does require a driver. So here I'll open up the device manager to show you. It's called the, what is it called again? It's the USB to serial, the CH340K driver. It's this driver here. So that's the driver you want to install if it's not. Most Windows machines are going to have it, and I'm pretty sure if you're using this on a Mac or something like that, it'll have it too. But it's a pretty common driver these days, especially for this type of a communication that a lot of devices use. So I'm pretty sure you'll be good. But if not, just do a quick search for this USB serial CH340K, and you will find it pretty quickly. Download, install, you'll be good to go. But I don't need to do that, obviously, because it's showing up, it's there, it's active, we're good. So once you have your COM selected, then what you need to do is first erase. You want to erase the old firmware that's sitting on there before you put something new on it. And that just cleans everything up, make sure that there's nothing that gets left behind and overlaps. Go ahead and hit erase, and it'll turn off the screen. I'll flip over to the screen there. You can see the screen turned off. Actually, what I'll do is a double view. There we go. And as it was doing that, you see now it says finished here. So it's done for the erase. And you can see, this is why I say to leave the back terminal screen open, because it shows what it was doing, and it went through and it found it. And it's not engaged or whatever this is. Don't worry about that false. There's no errors. It'll say error if there's errors, or you'll see something where like dots. If you just see a continuous line of dots going across and nothing's happening, it's still saying syncing down here. Oops. It still says syncing and not finished, and you just see this long line of dots, several rows of dots. That's a communication error. It's not being able to finalize this zone right here, this section. So that's a way to know that it's possible a bad cable if that's happening. So I want to point that out, because I'm saying this because I had another cable. I have this yellow super long cable that I was using with an adapter, and found out that this cable is no good. It's good for charging, but if it's not held in the exact right position, I think there's a weak spot inside here, it actually causes communication errors. I have like maybe a 20/80 success rate of 20 being success of it working with the data side. So that's why I'm pointing this out so much, because I actually had the problem when I was trying to make this video to start with, and found out this cable is no good. This one here is good. So there we go. Anyway, so once we have that finished, the next step is simple. You don't unplug it or anything yet. Just leave it the way it is. You just hit start, and this is going to download. Of course, make sure that these are checked. They come checked default, but double check that they are. All four are checked to install, and you hit start. And this one is going to take a little bit longer, because it's going to go through and install each one of these individually, and you can watch it happen there. But I'm not going to make you sit through this, because this takes a little bit longer, like I said, so I will fast forward it now. Okay, so now it's finished. And as you can see here, it says in the terminal that's finished, and you also have the blue one finished here. And it's really nice also. It gives you a little bit of information about what's on the device, what kind of processor it has and whatnot. And it does look like it actually might have Bluetooth. There's the BT signature on there. That's kind of neat. I can't guarantee that this thing actually has Bluetooth on it and active, but I know in general ESP32 chips do have Bluetooth capability. If that's the case, that's really nice. That makes it even more beneficial for using outside of the scope of printers, because that means you have the capability of connecting to Bluetooth or through wireless Ethernet. And I'm pretty sure that's why it's saying the BT here. It recognizes that it's installed. That's kind of cool to know. But of course, don't quote me. Again, I'm going outside of this tutorial here. That was just something neat to see. Anyways, so now once this is finished, as you see, it's still black here on the screen. So this is what, when you do actually remove the power and reinitiate the power, this is just going to restart the device and take it out of the boot mode and get it back into its normal operation mode. There you go. As you see, startup is extremely fast. That's another thing that's really nice about these ESP32 chips. There's not a huge operating system that it needs to boot up. It boots up only the program that you're using on it. That's it. There's nothing else going on. It's literally just this program that we installed and nothing more. It's pretty cool. So that's it. If that's all you needed to do is figure out how to get this program to work for you, to flash over from the Panda to the K-Touch, or from a K-Touch to the other side. That's it. You guys got it done. But I'm going to go one step further, of course, and actually hook this up to my machine. I have behind me my Voron. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to do two of them. I'll start up my my other machine. Hey, Google, turn on printer 2.
All right, turning on printer 2.
Okay, so we'll get that set up also so we can see how it connects and if it's able to read both machines at the same time. Because what this does, we'll just basically go on next. So right now it only has 2 languages on this. It's in Chinese or in English. I've heard that they're adding more, and which I hopefully, because they have multiple languages up here, but this is kind of a generic welcome screen option from the LVGL, I believe. But anyways, right now you only have those 2, so I'm going in English, of course. And then you have your Wi-Fi. It takes you right to your Wi-Fi connection, so it scans the available networks in the area that it can attach to, and it lets you select it, and then you'll put in your password and stuff like that. And then after that, you'll get an IP, which you'll see. If you want, you can scan this with your phone, and that'll bring you to the user's manual. I do recommend it because there's lots of cool information in there. But right now, we're just going to set this up, so I'm going to do this off screen. Be right back. Okay, and so we got that plugged in, and now you can see it's giving me the IP now that it's connected. So what do we do with that IP? Well, that's not needed for connecting to your machines, but what it does do is give you the option. Let's go over to here. Gives you the option to do updates. So we'll put that IP in there. We got 192.168.86. What was it again? 20? Nope. Nope. Try that again. 2.168.86.20. Get rid of that. There we go. Okay. So this is what it brings you to. So it allows you to set up your Wi-Fi here if you wanted to, or even better is when there are new updates, you no longer need to use that updating program that we just used. You can drop the files right here. So it's a really nice system set up to where you can just do over-the-air updates. So all you would do is download the new update, come to the update file, choose the file, and then it'll give you the option to send it, and it'll automatically send it via internet, or sorry, not internet, but the wireless communication. Send it directly and do its all full automatic update. So it's a really nice setup, makes it very easy to do. And you can restart the device also if you needed to. So if for some reason it freezes up or something weird happens, you can come here if you're still able to connect and do that. Or obviously you can just unplug and replug, of course, too. But it's a really cool system to be able to do that. That way you don't need to interface with your computer anymore. But this is unneeded now. I just wanted to point that out. So we can now go next. Let's see, let's get next here, and then we'll just get to the bigger screen so you can see my full device here. We're done with the software side of that. We no longer need the computer. So now what we do on the next step is it allows us to add our 3D printers. There's 2 different methods. We can do a manual or an automatic scan. So what you do is first is you click down here. This is to add printers. And so, like I said, you can do the scan, which is the top one, or the manually add. So if you already know your printer's IP addresses or whatever, or if you've made your own custom IP address and a custom port number, you can add it manually. Pretty simple. I like to use the scan system because it's easiest instead of having to type everything in. And I use the basic stock port. If you know your ports are different, if you have multiple machines that have different ports, obviously you would change it to that there. But I know mine are on 80 because I don't change that stuff. But yeah, there you go. So you basically just hit this little refresh thing here, and it's going to go through about a minute or so to check the entire network for any machine or anything that's broadcasting the Moonraker, I guess, port or ID. So it's not going to just show you all devices that are on your network. It's only going to list out things that have the proper call or the handle saying, hey, I'm a Moonraker machine, because that's what Klipper is connecting through. And that's the way you interface with these type of devices. It's also how you interface with something like Mainsail or Fluid, Klipper screen. They all use that Moonraker to interface between user interface and web interface stuff to actual Clippy, which is the Klipper firmware running on your machine. So that's essentially what this is doing also. So now it's looking for anything that's on there, and once it finds it, it should list it. So let's fast forward that until when it finds it. Okay, so there it goes. It found both of my machines that are on. Got the Huracan and my Voron. One thing I wanted to point out while I was letting that go, I noticed there's some moraine or there's weird artifacts that you may be seeing occasionally, like the weird stripes and stuff going on. That is not physically visible on the screen. That's just moraine between the camera and that. I just want to point that out if you were unsure, if you thought the screen looked weird. So that's just unfortunately an artifact of the pixels matching up in a strange way. Anyways, so now we have both of our printers available here, right? So I do want to add both of them. So go ahead and just select them both and then hit OK. And now you can see that they're both in the list. So now what we need to do is to select which one you want to first connect to. So this isn't going to be like the permanent one, or it's not going to be like your primary. All it is you're just telling it right now which one you want to communicate. So I'm going to communicate with my Voron. It's like, do you want to connect to this? Yes, I do. That's why I selected it. And then now you can see it's in the printer here. And then we can hit next. And it should go through. Yep. And it starts connecting, is getting all the information to refresh. And there we go. We got the temperatures on here. And when we're connected, as you can see up here on the top, we're connected to that machine. If you want to change to the other machine, it's simple as hitting printer selection, selecting the other one. Yes, I want to connect there. And then you hit back. And now you can see we're connected to Huracan, a different one. Of course, the user interface looks identical. That's just the way it's going to be. I know you can change the color, for instance, but I don't think it swaps with the printer. But let's see. We'll make this one blue. And we'll swap back. I think it's a global color change. So let's see. Voron. Okay. Yeah, it's a global color change. So visually, it's going to look the same. That's just the way it is. But you'll know because you'll see up on top here, you'll see the name of the printer, whatever the host name that you gave it is going to be there, and then the IP address. And then, of course, like your temperatures, stuff like that. So this one, I have a Raspberry Pi CM4 on it, whereas the other one, I have the Bigtreetech CB1. So there's differences there. And then, of course, if you come into the start print area, you'll see this might take a little while. There's those moray artifacts. I think it's called that moray or whatever. It's a artifact with grid meshing. As you see, it changes as I move. That's not visible. That's just an artifact. Okay, so there it was. It found the G codes that are on the machine. And it's letting you know that it will only show the most 50 recent, which, I mean, 50 different codes, that's pretty good. But I guess if you have a print farm, that can be a little amount. So go ahead and hit OK that you understand that. And so you got all your different G codes that you can go through, and it shows you the picture. If you had it set up to where the picture is shown, you know, as a thumbnail, it'll show it. So pretty simple. And to start it, you would just click it and go through and start. I'm not going to do that right now because we're not going to start a print. But it is that simple. Select the ones you want and confirm. So we go back. Other little things we have, of course, we have like axis and temperature control. You can change the temperatures on here, as you can see. Not that one, of course, but your bed and stuff you can set. You also have presets available. So pretty nice setup there. You have your coordinates down below there. And if we go back one, of course, oops. What was that going to be? Oh yeah, just hit check. Then you can do your homing, bed leveling, Z offset, all that fun stuff, and disable steppers. You can also change how fast you want it to move, extrudes, all that good stuff. So you got a pretty decent control on this. Right now, like I said, because this is a version 1, it's still, I guess, relatively limited, but it has all the basics, all the necessities that you would need. Even for calibration, you can do PID tuning, you can do your Z offset calibration here. You can check your end stops if you need to do that. Right now, nothing is triggered, and the print head is in the dead center, so it's probably going to tell me nothing. Yeah, nothing's triggered. Let's see. Yeah, nothing's triggered. So, but it'll show you if they are triggered. And yeah, what other settings you have? You can change the language, of course. Like I said, right now it's only Chinese or English. How long you want the screen to be timed out if you do, or if you don't, you can leave it always on. How bright you want it, so you can definitely. Whoops. You can go ahead and change the brightness of the screen. Pretty self-explanatory. You can change Wi-Fi settings and read out the system info if you want to do that. Even factory reset. I haven't clicked this one. Let's see what it does, actually. I think this is an upload. Enter. Yeah, so you can, for doing updates, put it into update mode. That's what that would be. All right, so that's the gist of the screen. I can go ahead and show you responsiveness on this thing is really awesome. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and act as though this is permanently set up somewhere, and we'll undock it. Now, as you can see, it turns off. So all you have to do is bring it over to battery power in the middle there, and it starts right back up. Automatically starts connecting. And from my experience, I use the ESP32 chips just to play around with other things like little robots or whatever. You know, this one is not an ESP32 at the moment, of course, but you know, little guys like this I like to make and play around with and things like that. And I've noticed with the ESP32 chips, they're pretty fast. They're really responsive, and even with the setting up to Wi-Fi and things like that, they seem to be really good. So I think it was a good choice to do that. So let's see what's going on here. Timeout retrieving printer data. Looks like my Wi-Fi is not connecting at the moment. Let's try to refresh. I have two, oops. As you can see, I have two of those ports, and one of them is a very weak one. So I have a problem with that in my house. So sometimes they'll jump to the wrong one and it won't connect. There we go. Should be connected now. There we go. So yeah, now it's connected to the right one, the closer one. So anyway, so let's go over to the machine. I'll do a homing sequence, for instance, just so you can see how responsive this are, because obviously I'm not connected to the printer. It's going through the Wi-Fi. So let's go over to that. Okay, so here we are at my Voron, since I'm connected to that one first. I'll go ahead and do that. Actually, you know what? Let me do the Huracan, because the Huracan's a little bit quieter at the moment. I need to change the fans on this one because the cooling fans are extremely loud. So before we do that, I got my Huracan over here. Excuse this mess that I got. All right. So this is a really good example because obviously you can see I do not have the touch screen on this one. I have the standard screen, which is fine for me most of the time. But it is nice to have now a touch interface. So first what we need to do is, of course, swap over to that. Let me just put this down on here. So we'll go ahead and swap over to the Huracan. Connect, get in, let it see it. There we go. Temperatures are in, then everything's working. Then we will go into here, and so you can see at the same time when I press this button how quick the response is for this homing. As you see, it's right away, very responsive. Again, no hardware change, nothing needed to install or nothing to plug into this machine. It is fully functional just by it finding it on the network and adding it. And that's it. A very easy way to get this thing set up. And I think that's really what makes this excel over having, say, for instance, Klipper screen. Klipper screen is wonderful. I recommend it for everybody. But if you don't want to fiddle around with having to add more stuff to your firmware, add cables to your machine to get it plugged in and all that good stuff, now you can use something like this, control your machine, and as a matter of fact, now control multiple machines just with one simple interface. And it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to set things up. Especially if you're using custom firmware, you don't have to do any messing around with stuff and making that work, because this is just connecting through what's it called, through Moonraker. So now that we got that guy homed, we can come over to this one. Then we do the same thing. We can swap over. Sorry about that flare. Swap back over to the Voron. And then let that get reconnected. Temperatures are good. Oops. A little difficult one-handed like this. So go ahead and hit that. And again, for responsiveness, right when we hit home, there it goes. Pretty simple. And you probably now hear my fans. As you can tell, they're a little louder on this machine. I can probably adjust them so they don't go on right away. But that's it. That's a home. Pretty simple, right? I'll disable the steppers now so those fans quiet down. But yeah, that's the machine in a nutshell. That's pretty much all that's really needed. As you can see, it's a very simple setup, really easy to use. What do you guys think? Is this something that you feel is useful, maybe pointless? I know, of course, like I said, if you have Klipper screen, it's really good here on the one machine. There are some ways of getting it to where you can control multiple printers, but the disadvantage is you're plugged in still. And so you can't take the screen and go, if you have a print farm, you may have 3 or 4 printers right here, but then you have the other ones on the opposite side of the room. Now you can just carry this thing around and go through each printer and do its own thing that you need to do. If you want to do adjustments, all that good stuff, you can do it right there live at the machine. So I think it's a great thing. And of course, that added bonus, like I was mentioning, if you decide you don't want to use this for your machines, your printers anymore, there is the option of repurposing it completely outside of the 3D printer community and using it, you know, to do all sorts of fun stuff. But anyways, that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about it. If you have any questions or if you guys have any errors or things like that, maybe I can try to help you out with, help you problem solve if it wasn't connecting for some reason. Another big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring my channel. That's a massive help. It really does help things get going on. But even a larger thank you to all of my subscribers, especially everybody that's new coming in. And of course, to you guys that have been here from the beginning. It's just amazing that it's still growing. It's really helping me, giving me more, you know, oomph to do more videos more often, to help you guys out, because I mean, that's really my main goal of this channel, is to help you guys figure out how to get these machines working the way you want them to, and to truly understand what they're all about. Not just copy paste, do this and you're done. I would like it that more people understand exactly how these things are working. So in the long run, it makes it so it's easier for you to problem solve or to just add features on your own. Gives you more confidence and lets you build things like this. I mean, this Voron machine that I built here, I got to do another video on this now that I've been using it for a while. But this thing is just amazing, and it's just so much more pride in when you build your own machine than when you get one that's pre-assembled and you just plug it in. Those are great, like the Bambu machines and all that. They're really good for somebody that just wants to print and nothing else. They don't really want to tinker too much with the machines. But when you come in and you build, if you're interested in building these type of things and you actually get it done, such a great feeling. And so that's why I go through these long, drawn-out videos and explain deeper of what all this stuff is and why I think it's great. So that way, in the future, you guys can do stuff like this with no problem. Anyways, I'm going to cut that off now so I don't make this another super long, needless, rambling video like I do. And again, say thank you. Thank you very much for watching. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. You can find links in the description. There will also be affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but if you use my links to buy something, like if you want to pick up one of these screens, there will be a link there. And it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it gives me a little kickback to the channel to help things keep going. So yeah, that always is a help. But of course, you don't need to. You can do it however you feel. I'm just appreciated that you're here watching. So thank you for that. And until next time, get out there and go make something. Thank you for watching.